Let's now consider the famous tactical periodization methodology. There are some principles you need to conform to in order to successfully implement this method. These principles are different from the principles of game model we studied previously and which you are representing your coaching ideas. The first and probably the most important is the principle of specificity, which claims that the content of practical sessions should specifically represent our game model. Our players should know our game model and understand the aims and objectives of each practice. Let's take a look at the example. Imagine one of our game model principles states that the team should apply pressing immediately after losing possession. A specific practice to this principle will be a 6 versus 6 small-sided game as shown on the figure. Here the Reds are attacking players who try to score on the goal. After losing possession, they have to apply pressing in order to win the ball back within the next 10 seconds. The Blues are defensive players whose goal is to prevent Reds from scoring. As opposed to attacking players, after winning the ball, the Blues should try to maintain possession during the next 10 seconds. As you see, this practice is completely representative of our game model, and thus is consistent with specificity principle. The second principle is the principle of propensity. This principle claims that we need to create practices in which the desired actions occur more frequently. Let's say our game model says that during the build-up phase, players have to stay calm when under pressure while trying to progress. If we take a look at the figure on the left, the Blues are playing with numerical disadvantage during the build-up. Their goal is to score on one of two mini-goals while trying to maintain composure when under pressure. Because of the numerical advantage of the red team, the desired behavior occurs more frequently, which makes this practice to conform with the principle of propensity. The third principle is the principle of systematic repetition. The systematic repetition of our specific practices should help our players to make their actions more automatic. The learning process in football is based on acquiring new habits. The systematic repetition of our build-up practice will strengthen the composure in our players, and to help them to make quicker decisions and to feel more comfortable when being under pressure. As Jose Mourinho says, we create habits in order to maintain the performance of our team, which often translates into good levels of play. The next principle is the principle of complex progression. Here we progress from simple to complex principles in our game model. Remember the principle of the game model where we state that our players can use communication when providing support after winning possession. In our training plan, we should first start with this simple sub-sub principle, and then slowly progress to the main principle. It's a so-called vertical progression. We should also maintain progression from high to low priority principles, and this corresponds to the horizontal progression. For example, take a team that has players with low technical level, but has very fast attacking players. For this team, the attacking principles can be less important than the correct implementation of its defensive principles. Here the horizontal ordering of the principles of game phases plays a crucial role, where we start by bringing to practice our high priority defensive principles, and only after that the less prioritized attacking principles. Okay, the next principle is the principle of tactical fatigue and concentration. The principle states that there is a need for appropriate management of players' fatigue and concentration levels. As Mourinho says, I cannot dissociate training intensity from the concept of concentration. When I say football is made up of high-intensity actions, I also refer to the need for permanent concentration. So the training load includes the physical load put upon players, and also the concentration load. If we take a look at the example where our team has one official game per week being played on weekend, then the highest training load should take place in the middle of the week, and the least demanding training session usually occur right after and before the match day. And the last principle of the tactical periodization methodology is the principle of performance stabilization. Regarding this principle, I want again to quote Jose. I don't want my team to have peak performances. Rather than that, I prefer to keep high levels of performance always. This is because there are not games that are more important than others. We need to win every game. In the analytical approach, the training load is very high at the pre-season and gets essentially lower during in-season. In contrast, in tactical periodization, the training load is equally distributed across all weeks as shown on the figure. Performance stabilization manifests that the day-to-day practices should be designed to enhance a specific physical component. Here we can carry out our strength practices on Wednesday, endurance practices on Thursday, and speed practices on Friday, for example. There shouldn't be two consecutive endurance training. That's what the principle of performance stabilization is all about. Okay, now you know the 6 principles of the tactical periodization approach. Very well done and keep up the good work.